Hello everyone, this is the fifth part of our project, and today we are gonna learn about modifiers. As for last time, it might be a long lesson, so I might end up cutting it in half. We'll see. I'll try to do my best to have a short video. So, the modifiers, once you have an object selected, you can find them in the property panel where you have the tab with a wrench. There you have a drop-down list. If you click on this, add modifier, and they are all organized by category: modify, generate, deform, and physics. And we are only gonna focus today on this category and just a few of them, to name them in the alphabetical order: array, Vivel, Boolean, mirror. We're gonna have a look at the screw modifier as well, solidify, and subdivision surface. So, I'm gonna start with the Bevel modifier. What I will do is adding it to the cube on the right by clicking here and choosing Bevel. Bevel, we've seen it in the previous lessons, also exists in edit mode. So if I go in edit mode with this cube, and then I bevel all the edges, like that, you can see, if I use the exact same value than on the right, I have exactly the same result. The only difference is between a modification in edit mode or any other mode and with the modifier is that you can at any moment go back to the parameters of the modifier and change its settings. If I want to go back on these edges now in this object, I will either have to redo it manually or to create another cube and add another bevel with other settings or something which is fairly complicated. With this, at any moment, I can go back and change any setting I want. That's the power of modifiers. They are what we call a non-destructive way to create geometry, because this doesn't quote-unquote destroy what was before. I can remove the modifier using this cross, and then we are back to where we were before. I'm gonna take this opportunity to show you all the options here available, so you have something to display or not the modifier in edit mode. So if I uncheck that, if I go to edit mode, you can't see it, but if I check that, then you can see it. There is also a button to hide it in the viewport, like that. And the latest one is to use it or not during the render process. Next to it is a little drop-down menu, and you have the common options of duplicating the modifier. In some cases it can be useful, and to apply it. To apply it would be to record the modifications without any way to turn back. So we are out of the non-destructive way when you apply a modifier. But in some case, again, this is needed. Next, what I'm gonna do is to model this object, bookshelf. I'm gonna speed up the video and I'm gonna slow down whenever I have a new modifier to show you. Now, at this stage, we've learned enough methods so that you can choose how you want to start an object. I can simply start with what we did first, scaling my object so that it fits the reference. But I could also go to edit mode and change its shape while in edit mode. Okay, and then I could join them as we did before. But what I can also do is in edit mode add a loop cut, position it, and then do an extrude. when we have something like this, what we can do to close this gap is go to the face menu at the top and choose Fill. This will try to add geometry to it so that it's not an end gun, but because this is supposed to be flat and not change, we could also use the F key on your keyboard as a shortcut for just a normal fill without any geometry. Okay, and from here, what I can do is using my favorite tool now, which is the shear tool. This is part of this object, but what if I want to remove it or to detach it from the bookshelf? What I can do is, with it selected, I can go to Mesh, and then you separate, and then you've got three options. Header selection, which will work in our case because the object we want to separate is selected, or you have by material, but no material is assigned to this object, so it won't work, or by loose parts, meaning it will detach all the objects that are an object on its own, not connected in the mesh. So that would also work here, because this object, this part here, is not connected to the rest of the bookshelf. What I'm gonna simply do is use selection option, and now I've got my plank. Something I need to show you as well is this little point here. This means this is the center of your object, meaning if I am to rotate this like that, it will rotate around this point, as you can see here, which is not what we want. What we want is the center of our object to be maybe at the center of our geometry. For that, we can go to Object, Set Origin, and choose Origin to Geometry. Okay, so now the point is here, and if I rotate it, it will rotate around this point. This is important for the next parts. So, next modifier I'm gonna show you is the Array Modifier. Now, to demonstrate what the Array Modifier does, I have this cube, which is scaled down on the y-axis, and I'm gonna add the modifier. What you see here might be strange at first, but if we look at the options, we will understand. This array modifier duplicates an object in any direction and as many duplicates as we want. So for the moment, we've got two objects, one here and the second one in here, and the second object is offset by a factor on the x-axis of 1, meaning here is the x-axis, and so it's going this direction, and because this is a relative offset, it is offset by one size of the first object, the original object. If I set this to 2, feels like this object fits in between. So we have 0 objects, 1 and 2. We will see how relative offset work. If I modify the shape of this object, you will see that the distance between the two will also increase or decrease. Now we have also the option of having a constant offset, meaning it's only offsetting 1 meter, or let's say I'm going to set it to 3 meters. this offset will not change if I change the size of the object. You see the duplicate change, of course, because as it is a duplicate, it will be exactly the way this one is, but the distance between the two doesn't change. And then I'm going to show you. The next option is object offset. For this, you need to create another object. What we usually do for this is to create what is called an empty. Empty objects are not geometry, and they are usually not visible in the render, and they are always used for this kind of process, meaning some kind of reference object for any operation. If I set this object here, or let's say here, and now if I choose it as an object offset, you will see that the next object center will be exactly where this object center is. So now, going back to our scene, what I'm gonna do here is add an array modifier, change the relative offset from the x-axis to the z-axis, like this. You've got the reference here, and they are all set normally properly, but what I usually do is I'm going here and consider the first board as being the top here. I know we've got 3 boards here, so I need 5 copies, and then I'm gonna set this so that the latest board will act as the floor. Okay? Like that. Oh, there's no shortcuts. Okay. Now we've got the 3 boards, and they are all equally distributed in this space. What I can do from here is applying the array modifier, because I know I'm not gonna need to modify this anymore. Going with edit mode, and then selecting the top and bottom boards and deleting them. Like that. So now I've got my shelves. Now at the bottom we only need the doors here, the handles, and I'm gonna do that. Okay, and because there is work to do on this door, but that the other door is exactly similar, it's time to show you the next modifier. Okay, let's have a look at the next modifier, which is the mirror modifier. This will, as it says, mirror a geometry where the modifier is applied. What it does, you can see it here. If I activate or deactivate it in the viewport, you can see what it does. Okay, I have half a piece here, and if I choose the x-axis for the mirror, it means it will take the positive x part of the mesh and duplicate it on the negative x part of it. Like that. You see, it's strictly identical, and reverse. The z is on the other side. Okay. And you can also choose another axis, like the y-axis. And you see here, the y from here is now on this side. Okay. So if I remove it, you can see that this part didn't go this way. Okay, and the same for the z-axis. There is a z there at the top. If I select it, it's there at the bottom as well. I'm gonna show you the 2 other options, which is Bisect and Click. If we apply the modifier on an object which is full, meaning like not like here, cut already on the axis, what we will have is that this part here of the object will be duplicated in reverse, so we'll end up on this side here. If I were for example, to apply the modifier, and then I go in edit mode, I choose this edge and I use the reproduction tool. You see, we've got one face here, and I'm pretty sure there is another one. Let's open this up, back here, you see. Okay, so I had a face on top of the other face, and this you don't want. So if I'm going back using Ctrl Z, this is what the bisect option is. This means it will cut your object in half using the plane that we chose here on the X axis, meaning the plane will be like that, you know. Okay, like this. In between the plus X and the minus X here. Okay, I'm deleting that quickly. So now what we have, if we apply this modifier now and do the same, see, we already have a cut in the middle that the bisect option has done. And if I am to select this and rip it off, you see there is no other faces anymore on top of each other. So that's the bisect option. And now why do I have a flip option? This is because when you choose the bisect option, it doesn't know if you maybe want to mirror this side of the object or maybe this side. So if I choose the mirror and the bisect option, then if I flip on the x-axis as well, you see it has duplicated the original shape of the object here on the right. If I disable the modifier in the viewport, that's the original shape, and it's taking these parts, cut here, okay, and copy it on the right side. And the mirror object is as before. If you use an empty, you can use this to control the axis where the mirroring happens. Meaning, if I were to add, for example, an empty here, and choose with this object the empty as a mirror object, like that, this means that if I want to move now the empty, you see, the object is mirrored based on the center of the empty. Okay, you can see it here. That could be also useful in some situations. Now that we know about the mirror modifier, I'm gonna add it to this box. Now it's in the middle, so we can't see the effect of the mirror modifier. But once I will take that here and move it on the side, you see now we've got something like two doors. And they are both identical, so every modification I'm doing on the right side is reproduced on the left side. This means I only have to do one door, and I can also see the result immediately. So I'm gonna keep on going with my model. See, the door on the left is the mirror of this one, so it's exactly the same. I guess our bookshelf is done. What I can do is now attach the doors to the main parts, but what we are gonna see is that when you attach an object which has a modifier on another one, the active object is the one that gives or copy its modifier to the object you join, and you lose the other object's modifier, meaning that we don't have the mirror modifier here anymore. So before joining those two objects together, what we need to do, if we don't need it anymore, and I think we don't, apply the mirror modifier, so this is now a normal mesh, and then join it to this one. Something we can do to make it look nicer is to add maybe a Vivel Modifier, so then all the edges aren't that sharp anymore. Okay, and now I'm gonna also smooth my objects and change the auto smooth options. It fits better what I'm doing, what I want. This door looks a bit too flat. Maybe I need to change these angles here a bit lower. Okay. What we have here is that we are stuck in a situation where this value for the doors is too high, but not enough for the other parts. What we need to do is wait what is best, because this value being too low, it's affecting the main parts of our object, so it's better to have it maybe back at 30, like this. Okay, maybe a bit more. No, 30 is okay. And for these doors, what we can do is, because we want this to not be affected by the smoothing groups, we can select the edges like that, and then those ones as well. And in the menu edge, we can go and choose the option Mark Sharp. This means those edges will not be smoothed at all by any other options. If you don't want it, you can still, while they are still selected, choose Edge Clear Sharp. Okay, what is sharp? It displays the bright blue color, so you can't miss it, and you also see it in wireframe mode. Okay, now it's really finished. We've got our bookshelf, and we've seen the Bevel modifier, the array modifier, and the mirror modifier. Okay, so to show how the next modifier works, I'm gonna use this object. They are test tubes. Alright, so I have kept all the steps up to here, because you already know how to do that kind of things, and this object is simple enough. The next tool I'm gonna show is the Boolean Modifier. To understand what it does, I'm gonna first go back to this scene. The Boolean Modifier is an operation between two objects. So when you apply it to an object, first thing you should do is selecting the second object that will work with this modifier. I'm gonna use this sample tool here to sample my sphere. If the scene is simple enough, or if you name your object correctly, you can simply click here and it will display a drop down of all the objects in the scene. I only have one sphere, so it's easy. You can do that. And then it consists of three types of operation. The first by default is difference, and I'm gonna show you what it does. If I am to remove this sphere, meaning I hide it, you will see the sphere has made a kind of hole, which is the shape of the sphere. This is the difference setting. If I show the sphere, but going in the Object Property tab in the Property panel, and go to the Viewport Display section, and change Display as from texture to bounce. The different options are texture, which means it will be displayed with everything applied to it, materials, light and all. Solid is like using only the solid mode. Wire is as if you were using the wireframe shading mode, but it will be as a wire even in any other view, like this, okay? And bounce means it will display a box that is just outside of the original shape. So this looks like a cube, but the sphere is contained within it. I'm gonna move back to this shading mode. And so if I move now the sphere, you will see it is carving a hole where the sphere is. Okay? So this is, again, the power of modifiers, meaning that you can change their settings at any time. Okay? And also, the characteristics of this operand object will affect the result. See how these faces are like shaded flat, like the sphere was at the beginning. If I go back to texture, you can see it. But if I now right click and shade it smooth, you will see that the whole is smooth. Okay? That creates a problem in the cube, because the cube here is not shaded smooth, so I will do it. And because we've seen this problem before, what we need to do is go in this tab, normals, and activate auto smooth. And this is sorted. Be careful, because with a modifier like the Boolean modifier, the topology of your model, if I were to apply this, look at the topology, we have a giant n-gon here, another one here as well, and another one here as well. So, in some cases, this might induce some problems, so it's important to know what you are doing when using this kind of modifier. Okay, now the next part I'm gonna show is the union tool. If I'm gonna set this back to textured, okay, and go to the wireframe mode. You can see here the hole carved by the sphere. If I change the type of Boolean to union, you will see what's gonna happen. Okay, I'm gonna hide the sphere so that you can see. Now the two objects have merged together, and the part that was common to both doesn't exist anymore. Part of the sphere that was supposed to enter in the cube is not here anymore, this part here. And the last one, intersect, I'm sure you have guessed what it does. It just shows the part of geometry that is at the intersection of the two objects. Again, if I am to select this sphere, switches back to bounce and to move it, you can see I have the possibility to affect my objects in real time as many times as I want, and to change the settings like that. Okay, so knowing that, you understand that what we want to do here is create holes in these test tube supports so that we can fit the tubes here. What we are gonna do first, you see how this object, I created it the same way we did for the first object at the beginning of this project, like the potion bottles. What I'm gonna do is hide that for a moment. What I'm gonna do now is using the Boolean modifier, selecting this object, and choose union. This way, they are all connected together, because if I apply that, add another Boolean modifier, choose the sphere at the bottom, and choose union, now they are all together. Okay, and I can then apply that. And I can also, now I will just hide them, the cylinders, all the objects that were before, and now we have one single unique object. Okay, I can shade it smooth and then go back here so that it looks correct. What I can do now is go in edit mode, select this face, and then extrude it inward to have the interior of my test tube. I'm gonna extrude it here and try to follow the curvature of the test tube for the inside. Okay. If this was to be made out of glass, we will see the inside correctly. Okay. Let's unhide our first object, this, and because we have 5 test tubes, what we can first do is using an array modifier. We need 5 of them, and then we need them to be like here. Okay, so this is done, and now what I need are the holes. I'm gonna hide that, create a cylinder. It will act as the object to create the hole. Okay, I'm gonna make it almost the size of the test tube, because just a bit bigger for the test tube to be able to go in the hole, but not big enough so that this border doesn't go through. This looks okay. I'm gonna set it here because I want the hole to be in here at the top, and I can do exactly what I did with the test tube, meaning setting this in here, and now I can go to this object, add a Boolean modifier, select these cylinders and the difference option. What you will see here is that the things at the side here disappear. To avoid having that, you can switch the solver method from exact to fast, and then you will have this back. Now, because I don't want to modify that anymore, I can apply the modifier, remove those, and see for myself, if I were to move this, there are holes. So now you've seen the Boolean modifier. I'm gonna stop the lesson here, and as for last time, I'm gonna show you the rest of the modifiers in the next lesson. Have fun, enjoy your life, and see you next time. Bye.